Take It Slow Homestead. I'm Carol, and today I'm out here in run number 1, and I'm going to show you what I've done so far to prepare for these chickens to have a pasture someday, hopefully in the not too distant future. So as you can see behind me, maybe you can see, there's a green mesh fence. So we're going to take a close-up look at that. I put that in the other day to separate these chickens from the rest of the run. The rest of the run, which is the east side of the run, is where I planted some pasture grass seeds. So we're going to take a look at that and talk about that. Okay, here is this end of the green fence. And I don't claim to be a fence expert, so I will just show you what I did. This is green mesh fencing material. It's plastic, and so it's only 3 feet high, 3 feet wide on the roll. So what I've done is brought it clear over to this T-post, folded it under a little bit, and used zip ties. Actually, yeah, that's a zip tie right there. Okay, there's a piece of wire right there that was already on the fence, so I used that to tie this fencing to this post right here. So since it was only 3 feet wide on the roll, that means the fence could only be 3 feet tall. So I doubled it up and I put another piece starting from this post, and I overlapped it with the first piece. So there's the overlap right there. Alright. So as you look down, let's just look down the fence, you can see the overlap. Like that. I drove a T-post in the ground right here, and I secured the fencing to this T-post also with the zip ties. And it kind of fell over at the top because the post wasn't tall enough. So I stuck a stick through the top part. I just weaved it through that fencing, stuck it right there. So hopefully that will stay. And then as we go along here, there's a big elm tree. I thought maybe I would use the elm tree as part of the support for the fence, but I didn't. But there's the elm tree, and then the fencing kind of is bent right there. If I wanted to, I could take some string or twine or something, or good acrylic strong yarn, which I've used before on projects, and tie this up to one of the small branches on that tree just to lift that up a little bit. But I think it's going to be alright bending over like that. The chickens have not attempted to fly over it. I shouldn't say that too loud because I know they're listening. Here is another T-post that I drove in the ground, and a stick also supporting that little area right there, lifting it up a little bit. So when we get down to this end, I knew that I would need to be able, after I fenced this off, to get into this east area over here that you can see through the fence. I would have to get back in there to rake and to plant the seeds. I already had cleared it out of all the twigs, but I needed to get in there and rough it up, broadcast the seeds, and then rake over it again. So what I did is I took a square stake. I call it square because it's not a flat piece of wood. Its dimensions are probably like 1.5 by 1.5 square. So it's a chunky stake, wooden stake. And I took that, And as you can see, I've stapled the fencing material to that piece of wood, to that wooden stake. And then I twisted it because there was about 6 inches or maybe a little more of fencing material at the end here. So I wrapped it around that stake and stapled it so that it would be good and strong. Okay, so then I had some strength. I had the strength there, but then I had to figure out how to adhere that to this chain link fence, which goes all the way around the runs. So of course I took some little bungee cords and strapped them. There's one up there. I went around from one side of that wooden stake, hooked it onto the chain link, brought it around, hooked it on. Well, I went through the fencing material, a couple of those little holes, and then hooked it on to this side of the chain link. So I did that right up there, right there, down a little ways, right there, and then to keep this area strong right here so the chickens wouldn't want to jump through between the two layers of fencing, I took some skinny bungee cords and hooked those two areas together, those two pieces of fencing together in 3 places. There's one there, and then the third one is right there. Now, I didn't do that anywhere else along this fence because it seemed to be more secure. It didn't seem to have looseness to it like on this side over here. So, there's my redneck fence. After I built it and secured it, the chickens have stayed in this side of the coop. So I think the fence is working. I actually didn't plant any seeds for their pasture until a few days after I built the fence, just to make sure they weren't going to try to escape through it anywhere along that fence. So that was the first thing I did. Here's a view from the end of the pasture that I planted. So now we are looking straight at the coop. If you can see that big elm tree in the middle, that's where we just were. So this is what I raked up, got all the twigs out of it, and then I did just like I did on the first pasture that was in a previous video. I just went out, I broadcasted the seed. I used 10 pounds of the dry land pasture grass seed. Then I raked over it, and on this side over here, this left side, I turned the sprinkler on that is in the other pasture, and I'll show you that, the one we did before. So I turned 2 sprinklers on and watered that area a little bit. Today I'll be turning the sprinklers on to my lawn, and it will water this side of this new pasture. Here's the pasture in the second run, the one that I planted last year, and it has been doing great this summer. And of course the rain that we've had from the big storm that Southern California got, I guess they got a typhoon, and we got some wonderful rainstorms from that. One of them was pretty big, which I've shown in a previous video. But all in all, the rain that we got has been wonderful. There is the end of the chicken coop, and if we zoom in a little bit, you can see that there is a run right there next to the coop, and I will be planting a pasture in that one also. I don't know when yet for sure, if it will be this fall or if it will be next spring, but that's the plan, that each run will have a pasture And that should help with my chickens' feed for the next eons of years. And so it'll be good because it will help me save money from not having to buy so much feed at the store. Before I raked everything up out there, I moved this little shelter into this side of their run, and this big shelter right here, I think it was part of an old culvert at one time. We've had it for years. I rolled it over here. They already had that one over there in this side, but this one and this one were in the other side, which is now a planted pasture. So I think everything they need as far as shelter goes is in here in this side. There's the one against the wall over there that I built out of an old dresser. It needs a new top. It's getting all worn out. They seem to be content, happy, they have enough room, but they will be super happy when that pasture is grown and ready for them to eat.